Hello! Have you heard? I'm running a Get Creative workshop at ELHAP today. Would you like to join me? Just follow the ELHAP structure into the orchard where you'll find me in the roundhouse. So it's time to get your creative hats on and join me, Vikki, for a Get Creative workshop. Together, we are going to flex our creative and artistic muscles. I can't wait to see you.
Oh, thank you for coming. This is the roundhouse. What do you think? It looks great, right? So thanks so much for coming to our Get Creative session today. Would you like to come inside? Let's go. Hi, and welcome to this week's Get Creative with me, Vikki. Now this week we are working on some bright, bold, colourful prints, and we're going to do these with by making a block print out of cardboard. So I'll show you some examples of what these look like. Now we can do our block prints on plain white paper like this. We can make faces, or we could make patterns, nice busy patterns like this. And it's fine on white paper, but I think we could make some colourful backgrounds for our prints. So I will just show you a couple here. So really just like bright colours to go behind our prints. And I'll show you another one here. So really nice and bright. And we can do our backgrounds in a few different ways, and I'll show you a couple of them, and then we'll get going on making our block prints. So before we get set up, we need to have a few materials ready. So for making our backgrounds, we're going to need some A4 paper and either some colouring pencils or some crayons, or I'm going to show you another method with felt tip pens. So let's show you what I'm talking about. So this background is done with crayons, and this background is done with colouring pencils. So you don't have to be precise. We just want to fill the page with colour, to be honest. And this one is done with felt tip pens, and the method is slightly different for this one, so I'm going to show you how to do this. You can of course make some backgrounds with lovely colourful colouring pencils and colourful crayons, so go ahead and do that if you want to, but I'm also going to show you another method. Now for this method you will need some A4 paper on your working space like this, and you will need one of these. Now this is a plastic wallet, usually used for kind of in files and things like that, so ask around, see if your parents have some, or you may have some from schoolwork. So yeah, see if you can find one of these. The method for this technique is to grab a cup of water and a paintbrush, and what we're first going to do is just paint the water all over our piece of A4 paper. We want it really soaking wet, absolutely soaking wet. So yes, I think that looks good. Now for the next stage of this, we're going to grab some felt tip pens and our plastic wallet, And what we're going to do here is, if we put our plastic wallet on our stack of A4 paper, and then we can see where we're colouring in. So we're just going to colour in our background like this, just making lots of marks all over the page with our different colours. So that's some orange. I'm next going to do some red, which comes out nice and bright. And all I'm doing is scribbling on this page just to get it full of colour. And then I'm going to grab some purple as well. So I'm going to fill in some gaps with a bit of purple, like this. So it looks really bright and colourful, and just make sure you've filled in all the space that you can see. And now comes the fun bit. We are going to print this design onto our A4 paper and use that as our background. So just going to smooth this out, and then are you ready? So this design we're going to put down onto our A4 paper, and the water is going to soak it up. So put it down there and we squash it. We squash it into that wet page. You can see it getting wet and soaking into the paper, and now we're going to peel it off. And there we go. We have a brightly coloured background. It looks really funky. Here we go. Now I'm just going to put this somewhere warm to dry out. You can put yours near a radiator or by a sunny window, and it should do the trick. It should dry out enough in time for you to start printing. So go ahead and do a couple of these, and I'm going to put this somewhere to dry. Now we're going to get started making our printing block to print onto our colourful backgrounds. And so what you need for this part of the workshop is some corrugated cardboard. And so it's that kind of thick cardboard that you get packages delivered in. So the way we can tell if it's corrugated cardboard is it's made up of a few layers. Now if you can see here, we've got this kind of zigzaggy pattern inside the corrugated cardboard, and that is going to be really useful in making our printing blocks because it's going to give us a different texture to print with. So we're starting out with this, and we need to measure up against a piece of A4 paper. So what I'm just going to do is grab a crayon, and I'm going to make a square of cardboard that is roughly measures up to about half of the A4 paper. So I'm going to do that there, and then I'm going to measure here as well. So it's about here. So I'm now going to use my scissors and cut out a square. So just a straight line here, and then another straight line here. You might need somebody to help you with this. It can be a bit tricky, but you don't need to be exact with this square. We just need it. It's just the base of our printing block. So here we have a square to get started, and now we can go about making our printing block, making the decoration and the pattern to go on it. So I've got a couple that I used here previously. Now you can see on this one I've made a face just using really simple shapes like a triangle and a rectangle and a couple of squares. And this piece at the top was also another rectangle that I used, and I have used the texture that's inside the corrugated cardboard, and I'll show you how to do that too. And then on my patterned printing block, I've used just more shapes, more simple shapes like triangles and rectangles. And it's really, really simple. So you just have to cut out a lot of shapes and then arrange them in a way that you like, really. So we're going to grab our piece of corrugated cardboard again. And I think I'm going to cut some long pieces out of this one. So I might trim that off there. And I'm going to cut a stripe here. And another thing that I can do to get that lovely texture that's inside the corrugated card is to peel away one of the top layers. So here you can see there's a little bit that's coming away. So all I have to do is peel that off and throw that away, and then you get this lovely bumpy texture, and that can go on our printing block. I'm also going to cut another slim strip out of this piece as well. There we go. Now I'm going to grab some more card, and I think I'm going to cut some triangles and squares. Let's see. Maybe I'll cut another strip. Like this. And I'm going to cut some more triangles out of here. And you don't have to be exact, they can be all funny shapes and sizes. Doesn't really matter. And now we can think about making some patterns on our printing blocks. Think about how we'd like to arrange our shapes, and you need some good spaces between the shapes as well. That's quite important because you want them to be really defined when you put the paint on them and you print them down onto the paper. You want to be able to see that background colour in between the shapes that you're printing. So maybe, yeah, that looks fun. Ooh. Maybe I'll do another strip there. And all you really need to do with this is play around and think what looks like a fun arrangement of shapes, really. You can make faces, or you could make patterns and stripes and just textured stripes, things like that. I'm actually going to swap these around because this triangle, I think if I peel this off, I'm going to get another lovely texture underneath. There we go. So that one I'm going to put right on the corner, I think. I think those are arranged quite nicely, actually. So I'm going to grab my Pritt stick now, my glue stick, and I'm going to stick these down. Let's go. So get loads of glue on the back there and stick them down into place. You can spend a bit of time cutting lots of shapes and arranging them how you want to on your printing block. There's one. And another one. I'm going to print that triangle down now. Oops. There we go. And my lovely textured strip. Lots of glue on the back of there. can, if you go over the edge of these, you can just trim the edges off so it makes a nice square. There we go. And gently press your shapes down to make sure they're stuck. And one more. So if you've had any packages in the post, then you might have some corrugated card that you can use as well. There. Make sure that stays there. And then in this corner, I might cut a little square actually. Little square. So I'm going to grab my cardboard again. Just cut out a square. There we go. Big bit of glue on the back and stick it down. Oops, it's moving around a bit. So hopefully your pieces are all glued down really firmly, and because this is hanging off the edge here, I'm just going to trim that to make my square nice and neat. And one more. There we go. And now we have our printing block. But there's just one more thing we need to do. We need to be able to hold on to it at the back. So on the other ones that I've done, I've just stacked up, made a little handle for myself and stacked up a few shapes of cardboard together to stick on the back. So we're going to do that now. So let's cut a few rectangles out of here. One big rectangle and split it up. One, two, three. There we go. So these should stick together. Oops. Bit more glue, and we'll stick our next one on. Really firmly squeeze them together. Right, now we've got our little handle. We'll just turn it over our printing block and we're going to put a lovely blob of glue on the back of here so that we can glue it really nice and firmly to the back of our printing block. There we go. And hold that on nice and firmly. There we go. Okay, I think we are ready to start printing. Let's go. Right, now I've got one of my backgrounds that I made a little while ago. Really nice and colourful. It's still a bit damp, but that doesn't matter. We can still use it. And now I need my paintbrush and some paints. And I'm going to stick to quite dark colours to do this printing so that you can tell the difference between the print and the background. I want my print to be nice and bold, so I'm sticking with darker colours like this purple and blue. So now time to grab your printing block, and I'm going to hold on to my printing block with the little handle at the back, and I'm just going to paint the colour on these shapes. One thing I'm going to do first before I start painting is to mark one of my corners, because when we put our print down we might not know which way round it is. So I think I'm going to put a little dot on this corner with the square on it. So I'm just going to point to that, turn it over, and I'm going to draw a little circle there so that I always know where that corner is. Now, time to paint. And I think this one I'm going to do some blue mixed with a bit of purple, kind of violet peppery bluey colour. So I'm going to paint this on, and you're just sort of brushing it on the top of this texture, brushing it on all of the shapes. Make sure they're really covered. They've got lots of paint on that they're going to print off onto the page. So all of my shapes now have lots of paint on them. There we go, and I'm ready to print onto my page. Now I think I'm going to go for a nice 4 squares in the middle. So I'm going to find my dot. I think that's going to go in the middle of my piece. So I'm going to put it roughly around here and just put it down and press it really firmly. So you can prod along the back and press all the paint onto the page. Now we're going to peel it off, and hurrah, we have part of our pattern. So that's the pattern that our printing block makes. Now I'm going to load up my printing block with a bit more paint. So these shapes need to get more paint on them. Lots of lovely paint, nice layer of paint on these shapes. There we go. And then I'm going to turn it over. I'm going to look for my spot, and I'm going to put that right there in the middle of the page. My printing block is a little bit big, so there might be a bit of overlap, but they meet up really well. Let's do another couple and we'll see our whole design. Make sure all of those shapes are full of colour. I'm going to turn it over. Where's my spot? Oh, there it is. I'm going to squash that printing block right down onto the page. And then peel it off. Oh! Just one more piece to do on this one. So let's load up our printing block with more paint again. Ready, here comes the last one. I'll turn it over. I'm going to look for my dot and I put that in the middle, right there, and press down really firmly. And peel it off, and there we go. That's my print all finished. really bold. I love all of the really defined shapes. I like all the kind of squares and oblongs and triangles. I really like that. I wonder how yours look. Right, I'm going to put this somewhere to dry and then we'll try another one. So, why don't we try, I have this colouring pencil background that I did earlier. So I'm going to put that down and give this one a go with the paint. I'm going to use the same printing block. More purple on this one this time. Let's load up our shapes. And this time I think I might print slightly differently. I'm not going to worry too much about which way round the printing block is. Just going to, ooh, maybe I'll do a big diamond in the middle. Maybe, maybe I will do 6 shapes. Oh, maybe, yeah, let's go for it. So I'm just going to go along 1 and print it again, paint it again. Load it up with a bit more colour, and then, ooh, there we go. One more time for this top row. There we go. Let's do it again. Let's fill up the whole page. And each time you need to load up your printing block with more paint. There we go, last one. There we have it. And this one looks really different to the other one that I just did. Let's pick it up. There we go. That's my pattern. I quite like that one as well. So I'm going to put this one somewhere to dry and then we'll try something a bit different. So I'm going to grab the crayon background that I did earlier. And now I'm going to use one of my printing blocks that I made before with a face. And so if we have a look at this, it's got this one big rectangle up here, a rectangle for the nose, 2 squares for eyes, and an upside down triangle for the mouth. So let's paint on some more colour with this, and I'm going to put a couple of faces on this page. Oops. So paint on my shapes, and then nice and firm so you get a good print. Oh, and you can see a little face there. I haven't got very much paint left now, so I'm just going to do one more. Let's see. And one more here. press down nice and firmly to get all those shapes printed onto the page. There we go. And now we have our faces on our background. So, what do you guys think? Did you enjoy this workshop? I really hope you had fun making your own printing blocks and had fun making your colourful backgrounds and printing your lovely patterns. So let's have a look. So this one, oh, still a bit wet. This one was a background with the felt tip pens that we really printed from the plastic wallet onto a wet piece of paper, and that made a really lovely kind of watery, delicate background, but still really, really bright from the felt tip pens. And then we printed on top with our pattern print that we made. Here we have a closer look at the prints from today's workshop. And the printing blocks that we used to make them. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed this week's Get Creative, and I hope you made some lovely artworks. I'd love to see them. So see you next time. Bye.